So I recently put out a video talking about intermittent fasting and how a recent study released on September 28 seemed to reveal that intermittent fasting hadn't been what we had perceived it as for the past couple of months and years. I know in the past couple of years, intermittent fasting has been something that has really blown up. There's a lot of hype around it. And basically what this study said is that a lot of the assumptions that we had about it probably were false. And a lot of the previous studies that had been done on mice seemed to reveal things that didn't quite seem to line up when we applied the same tactics to human, at least from a weight loss perspective. So what we're going to talk about today is a couple of alternatives that you can go into in order to continue driving weight loss results without having to use intermittent fasting. Now, before we dive straight into that, I do want to bring up the fact that some people out there might face a little bit of confusion because you might have tried intermittent fasting and you have seen results. And this study here, that everyone's talking about is kind of like, oh, wait, no, it doesn't work. And I would like to kind of highlight the fact that even though maybe on a physiological level, what we were seeing in mice prior to this study being done on humans didn't seem to quite line up when we actually tested it on humans, there still can be benefits to intermittent fasting that exceed the actual physiological things that are going on within our bodies. And some of those benefits may be as simple as when you cut down the amount of time that you're allowed to eat and essentially set boundaries around that, all of a sudden, if you have less time to eat, you're probably not going to be able to consume as much food as if you had, let's take for example the 16-8 intermittent fasting model, where you have an 8-hour window every single day for you to eat. So let's say you have breakfast at 9 a.m., right? And that's gonna mean that the last meal that you can have for the day is gonna be at 5 p.m., no later than that. So because of that might force us to have either an early dinner or a smaller snack as a replacement for the dinner that we might have had otherwise after 5 p.m. And at the same time, it also cuts out a lot of that late night snacking that we might experience, which can be contributing to a lot of unnecessary calories that we get in throughout the day. So I just want to highlight that some of the time, similarly to how the vegetarian diet or the vegan diet can often drive quick results in the beginning, it's because of these small areas where we don't seem to focus on too much. For example, vegan and vegetarian foods tend to, not always, this is not always the case, but they tend to carry fewer calories than if you were consuming a lot of animal proteins. Again, not always the case. However, these small things can often help us drive results, which is one thing that I really want to dive into today, where if you really take a look at all of the diets out there, the majority of them have some sort of sense to it. They all work in their own special way. However, if you do tend to look at all of them and try to identify the similarities between each of these diets, you're often going to come down to a set of the same conclusions. So I always tell people that don't focus so much on the individual specific diet. There are often times where one diet does have a specific use that outweighs another. However, if your goal is long-lasting weight loss, then you have to also understand that that's built off of long-term habits and behaviors. And there's this one quote that I really enjoy. It goes something along the lines of, people don't decide their futures. They decide their habits, and their habits decide their futures. Because if you really think about it, what we are, who we are, is really comprised of the little behaviors that happen on a day-to-day basis, second-to-second basis, minute-to-minute basis, and all of these things start to build up. Everything that you decide to do from the moment that you wake up to the moment that you fall asleep at night, those things start to build up and eventually turn us into the type of person that our habits have created. So in order for us to drive long-lasting change, at least in the form of weight loss, we have to take a step back and identify our habits and find out, are these habits something that align with our goals? If not, then we start to make the change from there. So before we get started, understand that, if you really want to drive long-lasting change and you want to see success and results in the long term, it's about fixing the little things, being consistent with those, and keep on tweaking and sticking to them along the way. Okay? So let's dive into it. How are you able to set a nutritional foundation that's going to help you drive long-lasting weight loss results? Start with principles, okay? These are going to be rules, they're going to be boundaries, and things that are essentially going to help you line up with the goal that you're trying to accomplish. Now, I'm going to keep this video really simple, so this is going to be more impactful for people who are trying to lose 20, 30 plus pounds. If you're down to 15% body fat and you're trying to cut down to like 12 or 10, this isn't going to apply as much to you, okay? But if you have 20 plus, 30 plus pounds that you're trying to shed off, these rules are going to be really impactful. So what are a couple nutritional principles that we can lay into our foundation to help us drive results? A couple principles that we always start out with our members here at Gimme CrossFit is, first of all, if you're going to eat animal proteins, stick with lean proteins, okay? We can go into like the fat composition proteins or of animal proteins at another time, but generally you want to try to stick to lean proteins for the most part. Second of all, try to consume more fiber. I think I don't remember the exact statistic, but I think in America the average person only consumes about 10%, if less, I want to say 10% or less fiber than our ancestors used to consume. And there's a lot of benefits to consuming fiber. Not only does it help keep us full, but it's really beneficial to help feeding our stomach bacteria, our gut flora, that have a profound impact on our health. So again, eat foods that have a lot of fiber in them, okay? Cut out sugars. If you're trying to drop 20 plus pounds, and you're consuming added sugars on a regular basis, and I'm not talking about don't eat fruit, don't eat vegetables with sugar in them. I'm talking about, are you drinking some sodas? Are you drinking any coffees with a bunch of added sugars in the morning, throughout the day, energy drinks, whatever it is? Although those are small amounts of sugar that you add into your diet, those calories really start to add up, and on a day-to-day basis, if you compound that over time, you're going to realize that you can easily lose a lot of weight by just strictly cutting out sugar if that's something that you are consuming on a regular basis. So cut out sugar, and also cut out processed foods. If you're currently consuming a lot of processed food, you're eating out a lot of fast foods or a lot of frozen dinners, a lot of packaged goods, if you take the time to really look at it and figure out what's inside of those foods, first of all, most of them are terrible for your health. Okay, but health out of the picture, if we're just talking about weight loss in general, they tend to strip out a lot of the nutrients that our body needs and replace them with a lot of added calories that really provide no extra benefit except that they taste good, right? So, but for the exchange of having those processed foods taste a little better, you're losing a lot of nutrients that your body potentially could use to help you get through the day, to help you feel energized, and help go through the processes that it really needs in order for you to function and thrive. So if you're consuming processed foods, cut it out, making that transition from eating 1 or 2 processed meals a day over to whole actual foods. You're gonna see a huge difference, right off the bat. I would say, like, if you're trying to drop 30 plus, 40 plus pounds, and you review your diet, what you're eating on a regular basis, you can do a food log, track 3 days, 5 days, 7 days of what you eat on a regular basis, build that awareness so that you know what you're putting into your body. And you look at the processed foods, if there's a good amount of them, or there's a good amount of added sugars, which tend to also show up with processed foods as well, you cut those two things out, you're gonna probably start seeing results like right away, okay? And then slowly over time, you can also transition over to eating more fiber, right? Eating more lean proteins, and eat more vegetables. We all need more fruits and vegetables in our diets, so I ask everyone to shoot for at least 50% fruits and vegetables in all of the meals that we consume. For me personally, I know that it's difficult sometimes to get in enough fruits and vegetables, especially if you're dining out. It's almost like if you ever want to get enough vegetables in your meal while eating out, you almost have to order an extra side of just vegetables alone, because let's be real, our culture does not really welcome eating a lot of vegetables. It's a very, carb and meat focused diet, right? So personally, what I like to do is I blend some green smoothies. I have 2 of them every single day, in order to try to build at least a certain threshold, so that I know that I'm at least getting this much vegetables into my diet on a regular basis. So again, quick recap there. If you're eating animal proteins, stick to lean proteins. When you're having carbs, stick to high fiber carbs. Eat at least 50 plus, or at least half of your meal in vegetables and fruit. Cut out all added sugars and cut out any processed foods that you're currently consuming. Those are 5 principles that if you follow those, I can almost guarantee that you're gonna start seeing results instantly. And if you can develop those into the habits and behaviors and routines that you carry out on a regular basis, those results will follow through with you. This is not like a 28-day diet, a 30-day challenge where you're gonna jump on and once you finish it, yeah, you've lost the weight, but once you stop those habits and behaviors, everything starts to roll back on. And I guess the last thing that I do want to leave you with is, when you're getting started with weight loss or with any change, maybe you're already on your journey, you've lost 10 pounds, 20 pounds, 30 pounds, but you still want more results, and you're like, how do I take this to the next level? I need to make some sort of change. Excuse me. Don't take it too big of a step right off the bat, right? Instead of trying to change your entire diet altogether, again, maybe for the next 2 weeks, you just start logging your food. Take 3 minutes a day. Write down what you're eating on a regular basis. At the end of that 2 weeks, you can review it and say, okay, here's a couple points that I think I can review on or improve on based off of the principles that we talked about earlier in this video. But instead of trying to switch everything right away, maybe let's start with breakfast, okay? Let's start off the day strong, okay? If you're not having a solid breakfast to start with, how can we pick a recipe or a meal or a plan, whatever it is, so that we can start our day off on the right foot? Switch out breakfast, and once you're building some consistency and progress with breakfast, move on to lunch, then move on to dinner. Maybe try to cut out a couple snacks here and there, cut out your sugars, but let your momentum and your progress build on top of itself, rather than trying to fix everything right off the bat. I think that's one thing that some people tend to try to skip from the start. And I totally get it. When you want to make a change, you're super motivated, you're excited, you want to see progress, you want to see results, you want to do everything all at once. However, sometimes we're only able to process a little chunk of everything at once, and we fail to realize that if we just break things down chunk by chunk, piece by piece, and work it that way, we're going to see huge results in just a couple of months. But trying to tackle everything all at once, we're often going to get burnt out, get tired, and then end up falling off the wagon that way. So start small, take baby steps, keep building on top of that, and stay consistent. Track your progress. If you want the resources, I'm going to link the access to our vault, which is just a bunch of resources like recipes, challenges, at-home workouts with no equipment, a bunch of things that you can use to help you get in pretty much amazing shape. It's all free. We just ask for your email so we know where to send it to. If you want access to that, go ahead, check the link in the description down below. And thank you for watching. I hope this helped you out. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Drop it in the comments below. Always looking for more stuff to create videos about. So again, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the next one.